Hello everyone, I have something I need to share about my nightmare of a stepsister who moved into our house a few months ago and has made my life utterly miserable. She thought she could get away with anything, but she soon learned that karma doesn't forget. Some background: I'm 15F and my dad's only child. My parents separated when I was a kid, and my dad has raised me by himself since then. He runs his own business and owns commercial properties in a few states. He's a very good dad and has always been wonderful to me, but he stays busy with work and travels a lot, so we don't see each other as much. I was around 5 at the time of the divorce, and my dad got custody of me. My mom passed away when I was 10, so for the last few years, my dad has been raising me by himself. Although it has not been easy, we try to be the best we can for each other. Before my mom passed away, I used to spend 1 week every month with her. Since then, my dad has taken at least 1 week off work every month to spend time with me, and honestly, that has been the best part of my months ever since. I used to look forward to this week all month, and we had the best time together. I thought our life was perfect and never felt like I was missing out on having a mom. But things changed when my dad remarried last year to a woman named Karen, not her real name. She is quite a bit younger than my dad. For context, my dad is 52 and Karen is 35. They dated for around a year before getting married. I met Karen before the wedding, but I never really liked her. If you ask me, she is a gold digger who only married my dad for his money. She was hardly out of her divorce when she met my dad. And honestly, I don't see what my dad thinks is so great about that woman. They met on a dating app, and I disliked her from the very first day. But I didn't tell my dad because I didn't want to hurt him. I know it must have been difficult for him to stay without my mom, and although it's beyond my understanding, Karen actually seems to make him quite happy. Also, it's not like I expected my dad to stay single forever. In fact, I really wanted him to meet someone. I just wish it wasn't Karen. Anyone but Karen, really. Karen has a daughter from her previous marriage named Ashley, who is 16. After our parents got married, she started going to the same school as me. I don't know much about Ashley's bio dad, but I know that Karen absolutely hates the guy and doesn't like Ashley seeing him. She goes over to his house on some weekends, but I've heard Karen trying to convince Ashley not to meet him several times. She actually doesn't meet her dad much. My stepsister is the whole reason why I'm writing this post. Ashley is spoiled, rude, selfish, and arrogant. She thinks she is better than everyone else and looks down on me and my dad. She always complains about everything, never does any chores or homework, and spends all her time on her phone shopping online or watching Netflix. Karen never says no to her for anything, and ever since she started living at our house, she expects me and my dad to act the same way as her mom. She has a habit of stealing my clothes, hiding and using up my makeup and jewelry, and then lying about it. She also sneaks in with her boyfriend often when no one's home and has warned me against saying anything to my dad or her mom. I honestly don't mind that. It is none of my business, but that's not all she does. Actually, I wish that being bratty and sneaking in boys was the only thing she did, but she is worse, so much worse than that. Karen never tells her off for messing with my stuff and is obsessed with getting her everything she wants. It's almost like she is trying to please her for some reason. When Karen and Ashley moved in, they brought a lot of stuff with them. Karen obviously took over the master bedroom, which used to be my dad's, and filled it with her tacky furniture, clothes, and accessories. She also convinced my dad to give my room to Ashley since she would be moving out for college soon, and I would only have to adjust for a few years. After that, I could have my room back. I hated this, and tried to convince my dad to keep my room, but he said that Karen had a point, and that I should do my part in making my stepsister feel welcome. They also took over the guest room, which was the only other nice room. It is filled with Karen's Pilates stuff, and I am not allowed to even enter it. But not that I care about that, but the guest room being occupied left me with the smallest room in the house, which barely had enough space for a bed and a desk. I had to move a lot of my stuff into the attic, because there was simply no space for it in my new room. My dad apologized to me but said that since Ashley was older and all of this was new to her, she needed more space. To be fair, he did say that if I really had a problem with this, I could have the guest room, and they would rearrange all the stuff in there. But I could tell that he was just trying to be nice. There was no way all that exercise stuff would fit into this tiny room anyway, so I didn't even bother. I did think of suggesting that we should put Ashley in the tiny room, and let me keep my room since she would only have to struggle for a few years, but decided against it. I just wanted to make things easier for my dad. Despite all of it, I didn't mind the living situation that much. I am used to spending a lot of time at school because of my extracurriculars. I didn't need a huge room to be happy. I had my books, my laptop, and my guitar. I also have a few amazing friends at school who were supportive and understanding. I started hanging out at their house a lot after school, trying to avoid Ashley as much as I possibly could, and I focused more on my studies and hobbies. I wanted to get good grades so I could go to a good college and move out of this place as soon as possible. But Ashley was not okay with leaving me alone. Once she transferred to my school, she started to terrorize me at both school and at home. She would spread rumors about me, call me names, mock me, and embarrass me in front of everyone. She would also sabotage my work and even steal from my school locker once. Of course, when I told my dad about it, he said that I must be mistaken and someone else must have taken my stuff. She did everything she could to make me miserable. Since she was a junior and I was only in middle school, it was kind of impossible for me to do anything against her at school. I just tried to avoid her at home, but even it wasn't easy because of how intrusive and annoying she is. She also tried to turn my dad against me. She would always be manipulative around him. She didn't outright lie to him, but she used to subtly try to make it seem like I wasn't kind to her, and tell him stuff like how she has always wanted a little sister, and hoped that I would warm up to her. I tried to talk to my dad about all this, but he didn't believe me and said the same thing that he always says, that Ashley is still adjusting and has had a rough life, and that I should be patient with her. She would act sweet and innocent and pretend to be the perfect daughter. She would also butter him up and ask him for gifts and money all the time. She turned 16 just a few months after her mom married my dad, and dad even bought her a really expensive car as a birthday gift. I didn't care about all that stuff, but when my dad started spending most of his week at home with Ashley and Karen instead of me, it started to really bother me. Ashley would be really mean to me, saying my dad would forget me once I moved out to college and she would be his only daughter, and that I would be forgotten. I honestly did not pay much attention to these things, and told myself that she was just immature and stupid. I know, of course, that my dad will never forget me no matter how close he gets to Ashley. Last week it was Karen and my dad's anniversary. They decided to take a weekend trip to my uncle's beach house. My dad wanted to come back the same day and not stay the night, but Karen wanted to stay. And Ashley convinced him that she would take care of the house and watch over me, and promised him that nothing bad would happen. My dad had literally never left me alone overnight before, and I did not want Ashley of all people to be there when he did. I didn't even like the sound of that. I knew that if none of the adults were home, she would do something crazy and make me a part of it too. But I did not want to ruin my dad's day, and told him that he should go, and that I was old enough to take care of myself. I promised him that if anything went wrong, I could call him immediately. Turns out I would need to keep that promise earlier than I expected, but that's for later. Anyway, the moment that they left, Ashley turned to me and handed me some sheets of paper. I was really confused and asked her what this was. She told me that she was throwing a party that night, and this was her rule book, and I had to follow everything written on it for the next 2 days, or she would make sure that I was even more miserable in school than I already was. I refused and said that I would call my dad and tell him everything. She told me to go ahead and that if I did, she would ruin my life. This time she was serious, so I was stuck. I could not let dad ruin his weekend for a spoiled brat. So I agreed and asked her what I had to do. It was honestly ridiculous, but it wasn't as bad as I expected. Basically, I had to keep my mouth shut and do whatever she said until the party was over. I knew that her friends could be mean to me, but I had no choice. I was dreading it. The party started at 9, and by then I was locked up in my room and had no choice but to keep my mouth shut. Ashley let me out of the room to get some food, but I had to sneak in and out of the kitchen so no one would see me. She had strict instructions that I wasn't allowed to be seen or heard, and if anyone asked about me, I was supposed to say I was feeling sick and needed to rest. I honestly had no intention of getting in her way, so I kept my mouth shut and stayed in my room. I tried to do my homework and ignore the loud music and noise. But it was impossible to concentrate, and I started to get really angry. I thought about calling my dad, but I didn't want to ruin his weekend. I also knew that Ashley would find a way to get back at me if I did. So I just waited and hoped that the party would be over soon. But things started to get out of hand around midnight. The music got louder, and I could hear people yelling and screaming. I knew they were probably drunk and high. I started to get worried that something bad would happen. I tried to stay calm and tell myself that it would be over soon. But then I heard a loud crash and a scream. I ran out of my room and saw that someone had broken one of the windows in the living room, and there was glass everywhere. Ashley was freaking out and yelling at everyone to get out. I could see that some of her friends were passed out on the couch and floor, and some were trying to help her clean up the mess. I knew that this was not good. I couldn't let this go on any longer. I decided to call my dad and tell him everything. I didn't care if Ashley would hate me for it. I couldn't let this go on. My dad answered the phone and asked me what was wrong. I told him everything that had happened and he was furious. He told me to stay in my room and lock the door and that he would be home as soon as possible. He said he would call the police and have them come over to deal with the situation. I did as he said and locked myself in my room. I could hear Ashley yelling at her friends and trying to get them to leave. I was terrified and just wanted my dad to come home. The police arrived within 15 minutes and started to clear out the party. They took statements from everyone and made sure that no one was hurt. My dad arrived shortly after and was livid. He started yelling at Ashley and told her that she was grounded and that she would have to pay for the damages. He also told Karen that he was done with her and that she and Ashley would have to move out. Karen started crying and begging my dad to forgive her, but he was adamant. He told them that they had until the end of the week to pack their things and leave. Ashley tried to blame me for everything and said that I had overreacted and ruined everything. But my dad didn't believe her. He told her that she was responsible for her actions and that she had to face the consequences. I felt a huge sense of relief and satisfaction. Karma had finally caught up with Ashley and Karen, and I couldn't be happier. They moved out a few days later, and things went back to normal. My dad apologized to me and said that he should have listened to me from the beginning. He promised that he would never let anyone come between us again. I got my room back, and we started spending more time together again. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was finally free from my nightmare of a stepsister. So that's my story. I hope that anyone who is going through a similar situation can find some comfort in knowing that things can get better.